What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Talking Halos. I'm your host today, Jared Timms, and I am joined alongside my co-host, my partner in crime, Nate Green. Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you, Jared?
Super enthusiastic. Try it again. Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you, buddy?
There it is. A little better. A little bit better. Well, I'm doing good. Doing good, Off season's officially almost here. Almost officially here. I said it backwards.
Sure.
Almost officially here, which means that we can talk even more Angels baseball. Not a lot of news, not a lot of things going on, but still good to jump on and talk to our favorite people. You could see our beautiful mugs. I'm sure that's exactly what you want to see here, right? Is us? And I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I
We'll
don't
see.
know. Maybe.
Maybe. Well, we got some fun stuff to talk about today. Nate, I know you're gonna have a might be another Nate podcast here, kind of. I don't
No,
know.
no.
Not really. It could be. It could be. I might turn it into a Nate podcast. You know why? Because I didn't tell you what we're talking about, so I enjoy doing this. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
what else is new?
So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching and listening here at Talking Halos. If you're watching us on YouTube, drop a comment down in the comments section. Let us know how you're feeling about the Angels offseason. Drop a comment as you're watching this along with us. I'll ask some questions. Let us know what you think. I look at all the comments. I enjoy it. Even Justin Locke, I think is his name. I'm gonna call him out. Even look at your comments. Talks crap on me every single time. Um, it's okay though. You're doing something right if not everybody likes you. I think that's what they say, right? Sure. Sure.
Sure.
Good.
Sure.
There you go. Good answer there. Good answer. No, go ahead, follow us on all our social medias, X, Instagram, Facebook. You can follow myself on X, Jared_Tim's Nate at Nate Green 34, guys, and give us 1 second to pay those bills. And we're back. Nate, let's see how quickly that was. That was perfect. Look at that. We got through.
Yes.
Hey, awesome.
Nice and
I'm
quick.
I'm unbelievable. We have one little bit of news here, then we'll get going on to, you know, all the fun stuff to talk about, a little managerial stuff. I got a little Yusei Kikuchi talk. And then of course we're gonna talk a little free agency here. But the little bit of news, Luis Renifo is a gold glove finalist, the only gold glove finalist for the Angels. Actually, I was doing the research on it. I don't know if it's deserved, but I mean, it's not deserved. Like everybody was like, oh, he's a really bad defender, this, that, and another. Not as bad as people think. Nate, I don't know if you've looked at Luis Renifo's
I
defensive
have.
stats. It's not that bad at second base. I know altogether, if you look at his defensive
Yeah.
stats, he didn't have a great year, but at second base, not horrible. He had 5 defensive runs saved, 4 outs above average. He had a 988 fielding percentage. He had a 3.3 defensive WAR, according to Fangraphs. He was third in defensive runs saved amongst infield or amongst second baseman, minimum 500 innings at second base. Third in defensive runs saved, five and outs above average, five in that defensive WAR category. Like I said, not deserved, not deserved. I wouldn't say. I don't think we expect him to win by any means, but still kind of cool to see Luis Renifo play good defense, especially since he's not wasn't a very good defender in most other spots. And I don't know, that might kind of no, it doesn't change my mind because Angels don't need a second baseman. I was gonna say it might make me feel a little bit better about maybe re-upping him on another 1 year, 2 year deal or something like that. If he can play good defense at second base, but I want to see Christian more there. But you got any thoughts on the Gold Glove there?
Yeah, I mean it's good for him to be recognized like that. I mean, when they're looking at Gold Gloves, they're really looking at the position you play only, not how bad he was at third base or things like that. It's
Yeah,
hey, how good was he at second base, and he played enough innings at second base to do it. And honestly, I think last year when he was a finalist, I think it was more of just like we don't have anybody else for this award, so I guess he was the only one left to get it type of thing. This year, I feel like it's a little bit more of like, hey, I don't know if he's necessarily the best guy, but at least he has good enough numbers to be in the conversation. Much like Joe Dell last year, where everyone was like, "Oh, Joe Dell, like he still made some mistakes," and it was like, yes, but he put himself in the conversation with the way that he played defensively last year in right field. So good for Rengifo to get on this list, the only Angel on here. I think that Ron has to get a little credit for this because of how bad Rengifo was before, Ron got there, and that's just at second base. That's not even considering third base, where like he's always been bad, but he did get better at second base under Ron, which is something that you and I both we're hoping for. I wish the whole defense would have gotten better under Ron, but he didn't really have enough the right pieces to be able to do that. But good for Rengifo to be in this award. I don't see a way he wins this, but it's good for him to at least say like, hey, I was a finalist, and I'm getting better as a defensive second baseman. I think that's the biggest thing for him to take away.
Will help out his free agency for sure. Again, I don't think he's going to come back as an Angel, but should help him, get paid a little bit more, especially being a decent defensive second baseman. Plus, I think I'd say he hit pretty well without looking at the stats. I'd have to go back and look, but I'd say he hit pretty well, especially down the stretch. If you go, first half, second half, he was not too terrible. So, with that being said, let's talk a little Angels manager stuff. Um, I would have assumed it would have already happened by now. As weird as that sounds, it felt like when Perry was talking, he wanted to get it out of the way. Yeah, pretty quickly here. It sounds like Albert Pujols is still Artie Moreno's pick. Um, I, I'll say it here because I didn't want to tweet it out. Little less people watch us here than what my tweet could do. But sometimes Artie gets usually what he wants until what he wants doesn't want to come, if that makes sense. And that kind of feels like this situation here, Albert Pujols, part of the inner circle, in a sense with the Angels, somebody that Artie Moreno trusts. And it feels like if Albert wanted to be the Angels manager, it would have already happened by now. Perry or not, that's just my feeling. Um, MLB Network came out with a list of candidates for the Angels today. It said Albert Pujols, Torrey Hunter, and a couple names that a lot of people haven't really talked about, probably haven't been interviewed or anything like that. Kurt Suzuki's not on this list though. Kurt Suzuki's more than likely getting an interview. Yeah, I don't know if that's been put out there, but a couple other names: Nick Hundley, Ryan Flaherty, Brandon Hyde, and Ramon Vasquez were just a few other names on that list. Clearly Albert and Torrey probably the 1A and 1B, though I do like Brandon Hyde. I know that you don't, but I think that what he was able to do the first time around in Baltimore, not necessarily this time, but the first time around in Baltimore was pretty special for what he had to do there. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on the Angels managerial race, I guess is what it is now. But like I said, if it feels like if Albert wanted it that bad, he would already be the manager, and it feels like he may not want it that bad.
I think that a lot of this comes down to like when MLB Network and people like that come out with a list. I think what they're really doing is saying like, who else are getting interviews? Check, those guys are getting interviews. For the most part, when it gets to this point, typically there's about usually there's not 8 to 10 jobs available. Usually there's only about 4 jobs available, and it's like, hey, these 6 to 8 guys are getting interviewed for all 4 of these jobs, and they're all going to be on everyone's list. And I would bet that when you look at other teams' lists, that you're going to see a lot of similar names that are on this list that with the Angels. You might not see Torrey Hunter on every single one. You might not see Albert Pujols on every single one of their list, but for the most part, there'll be other teams with Pujols on their list, with Torrey Hunter on their list. So it's not really too shocking to see some of the names that they threw out there. It's really just we've heard that Brandon Hyde has some steam from some other teams. We heard that Vasquez has an interview with the Twins. We've heard that there's one other guy on that list that you mentioned that it is getting an interview as well. And it's like, okay, like if they're getting interviews elsewhere, then they're probably going to get interviews with the Angels and every other team just because that's how it works. So the list isn't really that important to me. I think it really comes down to who makes the most sense for the Angels. From what it looks like, they're going to go outside the norm for them and go get a guy that's never managed before, which I guess Phil Nevin would be the last guy to do that. But that was an interim tag, thing. It wasn't like a hey, we went out to go get him. It was kind of like, hey, he was in house, we'll just keep him here. So I would say this is the first time that they've done that in a while. And we'll see. I mean, our Pujols has a lot of pull. But I think that it really is coming down to money, and Artie is going to make sure that he gets the best bang for his buck. So if he can get Torrey Hunter to sign for $500,000 less, or $1 million less or $250,000 less. Like whatever it is, he might just choose Torrey Hunter because it's a little bit cheaper of a deal than Albert Pujols. And, you know, as you like to say, you don't think managers matter that much. So for Artie, he's just in it for the publicity. It's really coming down to, who's going to help um, make this a thing. Like who's going to blow this thing up for the Angels. And, it'll just be Torrey Hunter, Albert Pujols, somebody with a big name probably, just to try and keep the Angels in the media, I guess.
In the conversation, puts butts in seats. I think Torrey Hunter, I think Albert Pujols do that for sure. I don't think that money has much to do with it. We have seen Artie. I don't know if this is the right words for it, but we have seen Artie kind of have a short temper from time to time when it comes to certain things happening. So I'm wondering if certain managers hold off, then it's like, well, we're just going to move on because you clearly don't want it. You kind of get what I'm saying. Kind of that
Mhm.
LA Dodgers trade type of thing that happened that didn't happen. Back a couple years ago there. So yeah, that's kind of what it feels like to me. Maybe Artie is maybe Perry is also getting a little bit of a say. I don't think that's the case. But maybe Perry is getting a little bit of a say as well with a couple of the names that are being mentioned in that list of guys. I don't know. You would kind of hope that your GM would have a little bit of say. I know you're going to shake your head on that, but I mean that just shows a very dysfunctional, disorganized organization and what's going on there in Anaheim. But yeah, that you would hope your GM would have a little bit of say in what was going on, but I don't think that's going to be the case again with the disorganization, dysfunction of what the Angels have been. So, next order of business here, the Yusei Kikuchi article interview that came out. I know that's been talked about quite a bit, and I want to get our thoughts on this. And that was Yusei Kikuchi at the beginning of the season asked for the air conditioning to be fixed in the weight room, and it did not get fixed at all. Again, just going to bring in exactly what I just said. This kind of shows, and I don't know again how true this is. Translations can be weird, for sure. I don't know, um, but this kind of shows the dysfunction. This kind of shows the disorganization of what this organization is right now. Unfortunately, I hope this isn't the case. I hope that translation was lost, something happened. It wasn't broken, but if the air conditioning in the weight room is broken, I would hope that it would be fixed ASAP for the players because that's brutal. That does not help your development in by any standpoint.
It reminds me of the David Justice in Moneyball, where he's like, "Why? Why do we have to pay for soda?" And he responds with, "We try to keep the money on the field." And like that's kind of what it sounds like is we try to keep the money on the
Yeah.
field, not on the not on things that
It's
that aren't that important to us. But also, I do think that this does have a little bit to do with the city of Anaheim and Angel Stadium and Artie with a little bit of a disagreement on who has to pay for what. They've been in a little bit of disagreement over who pays for what renovations and thing like that. And not to bail out Artie because he definitely has the money to just pay this and then send the city of Anaheim a bill and be like, this is how much
yeah.
you know, you are owed. But it could be a little bit of that as well of like, hey, this is what you're supposed to pay. This is what I'm supposed to pay. Pay your stuff and get this done. And anytime that you have two different sets of groups trying to decide on how to handle a problem, not going to get done real well. Usually you have one group that says, hey, we're going to get this done with, this group will do a good job. And it might cost a little bit more, but they're going to get it done right. And then you have the other group that's like, hey, we're not trying to make it be a lot of money, so we're going to get it done with this group. And then all of a sudden the problem goes, and there's another problem similar. But also, I mean, we saw um, the Angels media not be able to meet in their normal room at one point this year because of the water, the flood in the press room after a game. So, I mean, this really isn't too shocking to me. I don't think it was lost in translation like you're trying to uh, not get anyone in trouble. But like that's I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it was lost in translation. I think that it is what it is, and I'm really not too shocked because this just seems to be the way that the Angels do things. Um, but I do think that there is a little bit of like, hey, this is the city of Anaheim's thing that they're supposed to pay for, and Artie's like, I'm not paying for it just out of principle, even though it would help his team and his players.
I would. I'm not accepting that as a good answer, but I mean, come on, man. Like that's bad.
I
That's
know you're not, but you literally just said that Artie has a little bit of a temper when it comes to things. And if Artie's not getting his way, what's stopping him from just being like, hey, we're done, we're done. Like you said that you were going to handle these repairs. This is what you agreed to. This is what I agreed to. You've already kind of screwed me one time with the sale of the whole area around Angel Stadium. I'm not going to keep doing your BS. I'm not going to keep paying for things that are your job. Would you be shocked if he's that petty?
no, because I just said it. However,
Exactly.
however,
Exactly.
I would hope that you can get your team air conditioning. But again, you bring up a good point with the media thing. I completely forgot about that. I know other people have definitely not forgot about that, but I forgot about that. So, yeah, a last order of business here. We can go a little off-season question, get it going here early. One free agent you would like the Angels to sign. If you're watching us on YouTube, drop it in the comments down below. I have mine, Nate. Just right off the top of your head, who do you want? And don't make it be
Alex
like
Bregman.
the
No, I'm
best.
just
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah, yeah, that's not funny. Yeah, I want the Angels to sign Bregman. I want the Angels to sign all these guys too. But I do have a somewhat higher
I was gonna
contract
say,
guy.
give me like a realistic money where you're like,
Yeah,
hey, realistically, he shouldn't be making north of 20 or north of 25
yeah.
because if you tell me like Alex Bregman is off limits, then I don't want to hear that you said, hey,
I
we're
would.
gonna sign Dylan Cease, and
I,
Dylan Cease is gonna be somewhere in that 30 mil.
I mean, I'd love the Angels to sign those guys, go out there and do it. But for the sake of the argument, let's try to keep it under 30 mil. I mean, 25 mil, that's fine. Like if you want the Angels to go sign Eugenio Suarez or somebody like that. But
Yeah, no.
nah, exactly. Mine's kind of an under, not necessarily an under the radar guy, but somebody that I don't think a lot of teams. He's going to get paid, but I think it's on a 1 year deal. It's going to be kind of a Noah Syndergaard type of deal. But you got a name, or you want me to go first?
$25 million. You go first
Okay.
because I've got some names in mind, but I want to see who you go with first before
This
I
is
make my decision.
asterisk depending on if he gets a qualifying offer because
Okay.
it'll be interesting. I don't think he does because of how bad he pitched. But I guess you never
I know
know.
who your answer is already. It's Zach Gallen, and he will get a qualifying offer because they did not trade him at the deadline. If they were going to not qualify him, he would have got traded at the
I'm
deadline
throwing asterisks.
for
I'm
something.
saying the Noah Syndergaard type of deal. One for 20 million, one for $21 million, Zach Allen. That's where I'm at. If he doesn't get qualifying offer, if he does get a qualifying offer, then I'll let you pick first because I have a list of guys. I just haven't looked at my list of players. What do
Yeah,
you got?
now I gotta dig in a little bit and be like, hey, what do we want to go with? Because
Oh,
there's a couple different options here that you could go with.
I got two.
Okay.
All right,
Um,
I'll throw mine out there first.
okay, go ahead.
Lane Thomas is one of them.
Okay.
Center fielder, decent little defender there. And then this isn't somebody that I want, but it fits the mold of what Perry's done in the past. I don't know if Perry's going to have the checkbook or not, but a Zach Littell type of deal. That is just a very Angels type of move right there. I don't necessarily think I would love it, but I wouldn't hate it, especially if the money was right. Like I put 4 for 50 on here. I don't even know if that's in the ballpark of what he's going to relatively get close to getting, or if he would take something like that. But that's just off the top of my head without doing any research. Zach Littell's another one. I said Lane Thomas 1 for 5, coming off a really bad year. I don't know if that'll happen either, but you never know.
Hmm.
Still looking. We still got
Yeah,
it.
well,
Okay.
there's
Do I need to continue to go over? Like, I think the
no,
Angels are
no.
going to sign
There's a couple
Jared.
guys
Okay.
that I have that I'm like, he would be really
I
interesting.
just
He would
said
be
one.
really
I just
interesting.
said one.
I think Merrill Kelly would be interesting just to bring in on a 2 year deal. I know he's 37. He's pitched really, really well.
Yes.
Um, and 2 year deal can't really hurt you. too much. He's
Oh,
not going to be a qualifying offer guy. He's not going to be a qualifying offer. He's not going to be a guy getting north of 20 million.
can he?
Uh,
The question would be, can he get a qualifying offer? I guess if he didn't
no,
get a
he
qualifying
cannot.
offer before, you can't
Nope.
qualifying offer.
Once you trade a guy during the deadline, you can no
Oh, he got
longer.
traded. That's right.
Yep.
Never mind.
Yep. So he's not going to give QO. He is not going to cost north of 25 mil. I would say like realistically it's somewhere 2 for 34-ish, 17 mil a year, which would be kind of interesting. Um he's pitched in some big games. He's pitched for some teams that maybe have overachieved a little bit, and I think he's figured out how to pitch in the big leagues after coming back. I have a stay away from guy that I think the Angels are going to sign, if that counts as something else that we're talking about. But
I haven't really found any of those guys, but I haven't really looked for him either, you know?
the answer is very obvious. And it's probably going to be a guy the Angels sign if we're really realistic with ourselves.
Okay, who do you got then?
Trent Grisham.
I'd
Stay
say
away from him.
I'd say at the right amount of money, I wouldn't be like stay away from him, but I get what you're saying. Career year, you know he's going to get paid a lot of money. He
Let's just say for fun, it's 4 for 60, and that's like the low bar of what it is.
4 for 60 is the maximum
15,
that I would do.
that's 15 mil a year for 4 years.
Yeah, that's the
That's
max that I
that's
would do.
way too much for a
He's
guy
going to get
who's
more.
typically a
He's
215
going to get more.
hitter. Yeah, he might have some juice, things like that. And personally, I would rather the other interesting name too that I'm going to bring up, he's going to get paid though, and I don't know what the number's going to be because I think
You're going to say Cody Bellinger?
no, I do like Cody Bellinger.
I know.
Not where I was going with this actually, but I don't think he's a shortstop.
I just
I
well, Cody Bellinger isn't, but I just figured like, are we going to have a whole another offseason where you talk about Cody Bellinger the whole time or not?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
I do think that Cody Bellinger would fit this roster, especially if you're getting rid of Taylor Ward or things like that. But either way, um, no, I think Bo Bichette would be a name to watch. He could play third base. He could play second base, depending on what they want to do with Christian Moore. Um,
Not against that name. I don't know how much he gets paid though. That's my
that's
only issue.
that's what I'm saying. I don't know what
Is he
the
getting like
number is going
20,
to be, just
25?
because I know he's coming off a really good year. He hasn't played this postseason because he's been a little banged up. Last year was a tough year for him. Not too many teams are going to look at him as a shortstop. I think it's going to be similar to the Marcus Simeon thing where everyone knows, like, yeah, he played shortstop last year, but he's not going to be our everyday shortstop. He's going to play second or he's going to play third for us. And I wonder what the number could be. I
I got
think it could be somewhere
I
around
got
that
a number.
25 mil, which is the max you gave me was 25 mil. And I think that he could be somewhere around there, which would be an interesting name for the Angels to go get.
I got a number here for you. I don't know if this is going to be right or not. I'd say over under 22 and a half.
That's what you'd set it at?
Yeah, that's what that's what I think I'm going to be at. We can play that game if you'd like to. Actually, we will.
It,
We let's. I'll pick some names for me. We'll do this on the next podcast. We'll go the
yep.
over under on contracts. It'd be kind of
Okay,
fun to do.
perfect. But I
Yeah,
do think that's a pretty fair number, actually. And if the Angels signed him for like 6 or 7 at 22 and a half a year, like, are you upset with that deal, knowing that he could play second, he could play third, or he could play
no.
shortstop?
I don't know if Artie I don't know if Artie does it though. That's my only thing. I don't know if Artie shells out big money for a big contract like that, especially with Rendon on the books. If Rendon came off the books this year, I'd say absolutely. I think the Angels are Artie would do it, but with Rendon still on the books and you don't I'm not saying that Rendon is playing third base next year. We don't even know what is going on for all intents and purposes. He's not playing third base, but the fact that we haven't heard anything, we don't know what's going on. The Angels are going to keep him around, see what he can do in spring, see if he can play in spring. It wouldn't surprise me some strange reason if he did play next year. Like if he,
One
I don't know.
one thing just to bring up, because you said you don't know if the Angels do it. When was Albert Pujols' contract over with the Angels?
I don't know. 2021.
2021.
Okay.
When did they sign Anthony Rendon?
Yeah, they were in a different spot. Look at it. They were going to
2020
compete.
though. Like the year before that money came off, he was willing to spend a little bit
That's
more
fine.
because he knew like, hey, we could backload this or whatever, and
That's fine.
it's not as big of a deal for me. So, not saying it's a for sure thing, just saying that it's a possibility with the way that they've done things. Which I think
Boba Fett's your name this offseason. You're going to be all over Boba Fett, huh?
I don't know if I'm going to be all over him. I just think that he makes a lot of sense for the Angels because he can play all three infield spots, especially if the Angels don't know if Christian Moore is the guy at second base, which, you know, they didn't really play him, so we really don't know, typical Angels things. Um, Christian Moore could be used in a trade to go get starting pitching with a Taylor Ward. Like there's a lot of different things that could happen with this roster, and who knows if Albert comes in, does that change some things that happen this offseason where, maybe Albert doesn't want Christian Moore. Maybe he doesn't want um, fill in the blank with whoever. Like that list could be very, very long with who Albert does and doesn't want, or Torrey does and doesn't want. But it does just remain a little bit interesting of a guy who he could hit at the top of the order. He can create some chaos, and you can kind of push Neto down to that three hole if Bichette's leading off. You could have Trout hitting two, or you could have Trout hitting one and Bichette two, Neto three, and then maybe you just need another big time bat in the middle of the order. But the one thing with Bichette, he made contact this year. He wasn't striking out as much as he normally
Well,
was,
and he's
which I
definitely
think
not
is
going to be
a
an angel.
huh?
He's definitely not going to be an angel. The Angels seem to like people that strike out a lot and hit a lot of home runs. It was a joke.
That's fine. I understand that's what they have done, but he did do a better job of he's still young. I think he'll be 28. He cut his strikeouts down crazy. It went from 19 to 14 and a half this year. Um, so he makes a lot of sense for the Angels being one of the worst teams in baseball when it came to making contact. And then all of a sudden he's making contact at a probably above average rate when it comes to Major League Baseball. He still hit 18 homers. And, if that's your third baseman or second baseman hit 20 homers, like you're pretty pumped about that. So I think there are some things that make sense with Bo Bichette for the Angels. But like you said, will the Angels spend the money? I don't know. And I personally think that this roster needs a lot of turnover. You need to make a couple trades this offseason. You need to move some money around, things like that, because they're not two or three pieces away from winning a World Series. And if you're realistic, you're not going out and signing 8, 9, 10 guys to go be on this roster um, and be impact guys. Maybe you sign 8 to 10 players, but you're really only looking at 3 to 4 to be impact guys, and the Angels need way more than 3 or 4 guys to be impact. So why not get a little bit younger? Why not get a little bit more athletic? And why not push some money around so that way you're not holding on to a guy like Taylor Ward, who's a free agent at the end of the year, holding on to a guy like Robert Stevenson, who's a free agent at the end of the year, who makes a lot of money, like things like that. I don't know how many people will take Robert Stevenson, but he's a name that if you can get rid of, that would be awesome. Help push some money some other places and be able to go sign a guy like Bo Bichette. Who knows?
Yeah, I'd love to package Jorge Slayer and Robert Stevenson together and go get, I don't know, like Aaron
No,
Judge or
no,
something
no.
like that.
I don't think you could package those two guys
Nah,
together,
it
but
was a joke. It was a joke. It was a
But I could
casual
see a
fan joke.
Stevenson to a
Casual
team
fan.
for a nobody and just be able to get rid of money because teams right now are willing to spend a little bit of money on bullpen. And when Stevenson was healthy, he was okay. He was pretty good. So
Yeah, but he also hasn't been healthy. So he hasn't pitched since like 2023, man.
no, he pitched this year.
10 innings?
That's all it takes.
All right. All right. All right. All right. End of conversation. With all that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening here at Talking Halos. Don't forget to follow us here on YouTube. Subscribe, I guess, is what the kids are calling it these days. No, I'm kidding with you. But yeah, subscribe if you are here on YouTube with us. Give us a follow on X, give us a follow on Instagram. You can follow myself on X at Jared_Tim's, Nate at NateGreen34. Guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. Have a great rest of your day.